Caroline's alive!
How do we know she is alive?
I hate when people talk during the movie.
No wire hangers ever! You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Your stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Relax. It's all in bad taste.
Also, get off your fucking phone, mate. We're starting to record. What are you doing? Turn your fucking phone off and get your fucking head in the
Get
game.
your head in the fucking game. Some of us showed up prepared, he says, turning his phone on silent.
Oh shit, my phone's actually on. I don't think my phone's on silent either.
Oh, you're really going to have to check that, mate. Jack's still fiddling with his clamp anyway, so...
Playing with my clamp.
He's
have
playing
time.
with his clamp.
Yeah, you heard.
Does he have to roll the d20 for that? In order to see if he doesn't rip it off?
You guys know who Gary Gygax is, right?
Gary Glitter?
No.
I know Gary Glitter.
Gary Gygax?
Gary, that doesn't sound like a real name. It sounds like a
Is he
made-up
the new
name.
Marvel villain?
It does sound like a made-up name.
Yeah, I can't tell if you're being sincere or not, really.
No, it does sound like a made-up name.
Have you heard of Gary Gygax?
Has Hannah heard of Harry Gygax?
Fuck is Gary
Harry Gygax?
What's happening right now?
Gary Gygax created Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh!
That Gary Gygax.
Oh, we know Gary. We know Gary. I know Gary.
Everyone knows Gary.
Gary.
God. All right, let's get on with it.
Oh, fine, fuck it. Yeah. Welcome, nerds. Welcome to the Bad Taste Buds podcast, where we talk trash about the very best of the very worst in cinema. I'm your dungeon master, Liam, and joining me today we have the fairest maiden of the land, Jack.
Hello.
He's so fair. If only you guys could see him instead of listening to him. It's just so fair. And next to him, we also have our resident bug witch, Hannah.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have
Jack's ever regrowing virginity. I expect it's going to come back 3 times tonight, at
at
least.
least 3 times.
Is that how it works?
I think you have to grow a hymen every time.
No, I'm not a nerd, Jack.
He says that having
You
played
are-
D&D multiple times.
I think you're the
Love it.
biggest nerd of the bunch with your JRPGs.
Yeah, I
and
think
things.
you
I
and Jack,
you are
you and Jack
probably-
are on like level a lot of the time. But
I think we're probably
yeah.
the dorkiest of the 4.
Me and
I'm
Han-
quite
me-
flattered by that.
Me and Hannah
It's
get
fine.
off scot-free. Like we're fine. Yeah.
Scott's free.
Shut up.
I hate it when Scott gets free.
You're relatively dorky, but you're not like ultra dorky.
Not too dorky.
No.
I mean, we're all here
All
hoping
queer.
hoping to shine a little light on a subject that we recently have become quite obsessed with. As in the last year or two, we're all quite avid fans of the role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to watch the movie today. If you couldn't tell from the opening with the whole Dungeon Master thing, that's what we're doing, Dungeons and Dragons. I know, Jack, you specifically, probably our biggest D&D nerd in the group. Ryan, again, not far behind you.
So as people
Whatever that was. Whatever fucking that was.
I've got penguins on the brain. I was quacking.
So, as you may know, Dungeons and Dragons is like a fantasy tabletop RPG, probably the most popular one out on the market. It was originally designed by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and published in 1974 by TSR. Most people...
Wait, what's a TSR?
What's TSR stand for again, Hannah? I'm sure you've got that somewhere, don't you?
The Tacticals Studies Rules.
It's almost as if you had that prepared.
What do they do?
I'm pretty sure they made their own company to publish their own games and things like that. I'm pretty sure Gary Gygax
Yeah, I'm
was
sure
one
they're
of
like
the...
sort of like the
I don't
commanding
wanna-
board of D&D.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but does anyone know if they've done anything else? Has anything else happened as far as what they've... You're literally looking at me like, why did you fucking ambush me? You didn't tell me to research this, Liam. No, it doesn't
I
matter.
don't know if those two specifically did, but obviously there's hundreds of different tabletop
Yeah.
RPGs. Things like Shadowrun.
Okay.
Cyberpunk was originally a tabletop RPG,
Oh,
and
really?
then that's been it's
shit.
meant to be pretty good as well, actually.
We'll have to get on it.
But there's hundreds of them out there, but D&D is probably the most well known, probably the biggest household name,
Sick.
and probably the most popular one to date. It's currently 5th edition D&D that most people play, which I think came out in about 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all 5e players, aren't we?
Yeah.
Is that just 5th edition?
5th edition.
That's the version of D&D we're currently playing, yeah.
Just to let you guys know, so you may have already caught us on the 0.5 episode where we have played our own one-off Dungeons and Dragons campaign with Jack as our dungeon master. Obviously, kind of a little bit of fun. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that yet, please do go listen to it. But for today, we are going to watch the 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie directed by Courtney Solomon.
Which sounds like it's got fuck all to do with Dungeons and
Yeah,
Dragons.
from what I can tell,
Yeah.
it's kind of its own little weird fantasy film that they slapped the name Dungeons and Dragons on.
Are there dungeons?
Probably. I haven't seen the film.
Will there be dragons? do you
Yes,
think?
there's definitely
There is
dragons.
definitely a dragon.
Definitely dragons,
Well, then
plural.
it's most likely Dungeons and
By that
Dragons.
definition, isn't like 90% of fantasy
Lord of the
films.
Rings,
Yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons.
It
Aragorn's
essentially
Dungeons and
all is.
Dragons.
We could make a Dungeons and Dragons campaign based off all of these things. Would make perfect sense. Even all of the races that are there.
What's our favorite
all
fantasy
canon.
film while we're here? Just out of interest.
Lord of
'cause
the Rings.
It's
No
such
question.
it's such an easy response. That's mine as well. I'm not actually a massive fantasy person. It's probably lower down on my genre, so I'm kind of going to take a little bit of a backseat on this one. But Lord of the Rings is pretty fucking exceptional. Not The Hobbit though. Fuck that fucking franchise.
Oh yeah, I'm with you there. Fell asleep during the second one.
Yeah, I went to go see the third one at the cinema, and they did like a back-to-back-to-back screening, and I was asleep by the third one. I remember the battle, and I remember on behalf of the people of Lake Town, and that's about it.
I mean, Peter Jackson got shafted on those. That was not a pleasant experience for him, so I don't really blame him. But yeah, fuck those movies. Hannah, fantasy films, do we like? Do we not like? What we think?
No, I do like. Harry Potter's got a special place in my heart, to be honest, for fantasy films, but Lord of the Rings is fucking exceptional,
So I bring this up because around about the same time that this was all planned, Dungeons and Dragons came out. It was around about the same time Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings came out.
Literally a year after, as well as Shrek, Spirited Away, so some pretty sort of...
We were like heavy into fantasy in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
It was
massively.
Big. It was big. And then this, I mean, I knew about this film. I'd never seen it. This is one of the first ones we're watching where none of us have seen the film.
A Knight's Tale came out about this time as well,
Oh, brilliant
2001,
film. Fucking
which
awesome
is
film, yeah.
fantastic. Again, fantasy, high level. There was a lot of competition.
I had to
definitely.
read that at A level.
What, A Knight's Tale?
Yeah, the Chaucer poem. It's really dry.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know it was a poem.
It's like an epic poem from. We're a literary podcast now. It's an epic poem from Geoffrey Chaucer.
It's a very generic poem name, isn't it? A Knight's Tale.
Oh, he does it's a whole series.
Yeah.
There's like different tales for different people. It's fun. It's not fun. It's really boring. But no, Dungeons and Dragons. Something really, really that we're getting into. I'm kind of excited for this to ruin my love for Dungeons and Dragons. I think we're all pretty excited for our opportunity to ruin this thing that we like a lot.
So I did a bit of background digging into like the production of the film and things. It's directed by a guy called Courtney Solomon, who apparently was trying to get this going since about 1990. So it was about 10 years in the making to get this film off the ground. Now, TSR Hobbies, the guys who published Dungeons and Dragons originally, ran into financial difficulties in 1983 and were bought out. I believe most people got their shares bought off them, and I think Lorraine Williams kind of pushed Gary Gygax out.
Okay. Wait,
Now, Dungeons and Dragons is owned by Wizards of the Coast, who make the Pokemon trading card game, Magic the Gathering.
So poor Gary's
etc.
not getting anything. There's no royalties coming his way. He's just like living in destitution, right? Is he okay?
I'm pretty sure he's still alive.
I know, but bless him.
That's
Can you
not a high
imagine?
benchmark to be alive.
Shit, someone Google that. Shit, is Gary Gygax
Can you
still alive?
imagine though? You're
I think, in fact, I think he might be dead. He released Dungeons and Dragons like in 1970. What did I say before? 1974.
There are people who did things in '74 who are still alive, Jack.
True, but how long do you think he was working on it before 1974?
That's a good point. Yeah, imagine your like property being taken away from you like that. Like it's your baby, and you've just kind of birthed it, and then someone fucking
Guys,
robs away
he
from
is
you.
dead.
Oh,
He died
did
on
he
the
die?
4th of
Should've known
March
that.
2008.
should have known
What did he die of? Did he roll? Did he
Don't-
roll a natural one?
that. Failed his death
He
saving
failed
throw.
his dex saving throw.
Yeah.
No, because now I'm gonna
Death
feel really
saving throw, not
now-
dex saving throw.
Now I'm gonna feel really bad if it was something like really serious, like I don't know, like he was suffering for many years. I'm gonna apologize to the
Oh
family.
yeah, because that much less serious version of death's also common.
Well, no, but I feel quite bad if it wasn't by a horde of orcs at this point.
Oh no, let's move on.
Let's move on from no. To be fair, we are big fans of the franchise that he birthed. So I think shout out to him. Hannah, you look mortified. What have you done?
He suffered 2 strokes, narrowly avoided a subsequent heart attack, and then he was then diagnosed with an abdominal aortic, sorry,
Erotic one.
What a way to go.
aneurysm.
It's nice to know that this is the episode we get cancelled on.
Damn!
Leave you monster.
All right, let's stop talking about erotic
Moving
aneurysms.
right along.
We love you, Gary.
I think he'd be chuffed though if he saw how many, like, it's massive, and I think especially in the past 10 years, it's really boomed, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
Oh, it's huge. I mean,
you
we've
think
spent
Strange-
a couple of hundred on D&D stuff alone, right?
Yeah, the books and things, man. Shit's expensive.
It's like, but that's the thing. It's expanded into so many different mediums as well. So it's a board game, it's a role playing game, it's books, it's
a
It's a
film.
film. Well, it's a film series because we're not going to watch them, but this spawned 2 sequels, like made for TV sequels.
And there's another one coming out in 2022.
Yeah, it's almost like he's getting this Courtney guy is getting a shot at doing it properly this time. We hope because he's producing this reboot. He's not directing it, which I think was his intention from the start. Was never to direct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
From what I read again, I believe he never wanted to direct the film, but he was kind of pushed into it by the head of TSR. Apparently, he wanted James Cameron to do it, which would have been pretty interesting.
Yeah, the D&D film we could have had. Like, fuck me.
From what I gathered, In a meeting with James Cameron in 1993, Lorraine Williams asked what his qualifications are.
Who Cameron?
Yeah, she asked James fucking Cameron what his qualifications. Terminator 2 had been out for 2 years, and Terminator 2 was a fucking masterpiece.
Cameron made like what 3 of the best films of all time.
Titanic wasn't out at this point. That
I wasn't counting Titanic.
Yeah, I know, but I don't like Titanic, but loads of people do.
No one likes Titanic apart from Hannah, probably because she's a woman.
I hate Titanic.
Oh shit!
Casual sexism is too much on this show.
But he also did Piranha 2, like James Cameron. So there's that, which I think might be a film for the list. By the way, it was his first film. We're not. This is not a James Cameron podcast right now, but we'll talk about that.
Is that related to Piranha 3D?
Yeah, it's the same series. He did that was his first film gig. Was the sequel to Piranha, the first 1970s Piranha, and he directed Piranha 2, the fucking spawning or something where they can fly. I don't know. It's just,
on the list.
It's on the list. But yeah, this guy. It was always his intention to produce, I think, and it's nice to see him get a second chance at this. Hopefully, the 2022 version does it justice because it's getting some good directors behind it, from what I could tell. Some guys who've done kind of some interesting projects in the past.
I think they both worked on writers of Spider-Man: Homecoming or Spider-Man: Far From Home, or one of the two.
Ones, yeah.
So that's promising.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more promising than a guy who didn't actually want to direct. It wasn't because this guy, what he did, he went on to produce a shit ton of films, but his directing credits stop at kind of. He did a pretty shitty low budget horror film called The Haunting, American Haunting, or something like that. I've never seen it. It looks shocking. And he did another action film with Ethan Hawke, I think. I can't remember what it was called, but it looked pretty fucking piss poor. But yeah, I think hopefully this might be a redemptive arc for the guy. He gets to come back and kind of do it properly and maybe put a little bit more oomph behind it.
And if it goes bad this time, he has no one to blame.
Yeah, if this is bad again, we are covering the 2022 version when we get a chance to, and we're gonna rip it to shit because that's film me once.
I can't remember if we said this before, but I do feel pretty sad for Courtney, really, or Solomon.
Courtney or Solomon, the two separate people. Not only does she not know how to pronounce names, she's now splitting them up and just making them fucking people entirely.
But he sort of knew his shortcomings with this film, and I think he sort of accepted the fact that it was a bad film overall, but it's something that he had a passion for. It's something that he really wanted to do well. And it's why I initially passed it over to Warner Brothers. Don't know what happened in between the Warner Brothers and then it going to Paramount, but it was initially meant to come out in 2015. And
Hold on, the 2000 one. It was
so the 2000 and the one that's coming out in 2022 was originally meant to be released in 2015.
The one that came out in 2000.
So there's been
it was meant to get 15 years more pre-production.
The actors need to age for the final scene.
I was going to say, at least that's a good thing because he would have died and not seen it otherwise.
What's that film Boy, with the one where they filmed it over this kid's 22-year lifespan? It's like that, but with dragons and shit. That go over your head to that, guys.
The CGI is really shit at the start of the film, and it just gets better and better as the film goes on.
I think, again, just like Cats last week, we have another case of what kind of fucking blackmail did this studio director have on these actors so that they could get all these people in this shit? What the fuck is going on right now?
Jeremy Irons said that he just bought a castle. And needed to pay
Cork
for it.
in Ireland, I think, and he was just really blasé about it.
I was saying, fair play to him.
He just needed to pay for it.
I was saying to Jack before we started recording this episode that I feel like Jeremy Irons is like the Samuel L. Jackson of the fantasy world, where he'll just take anything because it's a fucking paycheck, and good for him.
Yeah, Aragorn stands out as that choice as well, doesn't it?
Irons is such a good actor who I know for a fact has done a series of shitty films, and I'm fine with that. Good for him. Yeah, he's paying for his castle.
Yeah, the Aragorn books are actually decent, but the film was.
I've seen the film and it's pretty fucking abysmal. I've not read
really
the books.
put me off reading the books.
I don't read fantasy.
I haven't read the last one, but the first three were excellent.
I've heard nothing I've heard a lot. There are a lot of fans for that film, just like there are a lot of fans for D&D, and oftentimes we get me and you, Hannah, were watching Dark Materials. That was a fantasy series that we really liked. Who kind of now just getting a good adaptation after they got one of the worst fucking adaptations in history with the Golden Compass movie, which was shocking. Fantasy's a weird one. I think fantasy is coming back into the fray after it was kind of. Early 2000s was a big time for fantasy, and I think we're really seeing a resurgence in fantasy at the moment. And
I think the 2000s managed to show what they could actually do with CGI and such, though, didn't it? It really presented it with Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, all that sort of stuff. It was sort of the beginning of it, and then the next step is starting to be taken. I know that people hate things like the Jungle Book and stuff, and even Cats, but the CGI in it is getting better to points where it can be.
Who hates Cats?
Phenomenal at the moment.
I don't hate Cats.
I don't know much about this movie, but I'm ready to formulate an opinion.
I'm ready for the trailer. Let's do some trailer talk.
Let's get this trailer going.
Let's see what we're about to put ourselves through.
Yeah, let's do it.
In a faraway world,
all people deserve to be free and equal.
The forces of darkness you can control. Dragons have threatened to conquer a kingdom. Dungeons and Dragons.
We've returned from our adventure.
Fucking excited to watch this. That was so cool.
Ryan's erect right now.
Oh, why wouldn't I be?
Jeremy
there were
Irons,
dungeons, there were
yeah.
dragons.
Jeremy
It's
Irons.
Dungeons and Dragons.
I actually
All
kind
the
of want to pick up
quota.
on that because as much as we were saying, how can they make a fantasy film about doing? There were elements of the game in that with the whole quest stuff and rewards. And
Well, of course, it's after
They're
every
just
fantasy,
fantasy.
movie.
Yeah, that's just
But I feel like they don't
fantasy, yeah.
emphasize like literally taking a quest in like I don't know if I know fantasy
Or
that
like
well.
Lord of the
clearly.
Rings, there's no quests in that.
No,
is
but
there?
they don't- they don't
Dragons.
literally
Just
say-
wandering up a mountain.
You can all fuck off. This is my podcast. I'll fire the lot of yous.
That'll make for good listening.
No, but I think I would recognize it being Dungeons and Dragons is what I'm trying to say. I mean, there are creatures. This is the thing, you mentioned that there are Dungeons and
I
Dragons
saw a beholder
specific,
in the trailer,
yeah.
who is which is a D&D specific sort of
Which leads me to
monster
believe that
or
it's going to be
creature.
more actually akin to the games than I thought it was going to be, where I thought they were just going to slap the name on a generic fantasy film, but it actually looks like they've put a little bit
I
of
mean,
effort
they've
in.
put
We'll
one
see.
monster in
Yeah.
that we recognise,
We'll
and
see.
they've taken one quest.
Well, we know what a dragon is.
Do we?
Can we talk about
Do
the
I know
special
what that
effects?
is?
Can we talk about the special effects, please? It looks like a PS2 game.
It does. It's got those PS2. It's got those Scorpion King graphics. That's what I always go back to. The fucking Mummy Returns Scorpion King graphics. Where
That's the litmus test.
yeah, it's just bad. It's like horrendously eye-bleedingly bad.
But if the CGI is the worst of this, and I think I might actually enjoy this one.
It's not like bad CGI should not make or break a film, but we do have to bear in mind things like the original X-Men film was out, Lord of the Rings,
yeah.
you know, Harry fucking
There's
Potter,
less of an excuse, I
like-
think, at this point. But you know what? Again, a lot of those films, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, use a lot more practical effects, which I think an accomplished director will bleed practical and special effects seamlessly, and they use them kind of in tandem. This one looks like it's entirely CGI, which I think is the problem. Like, they're just throwing whatever budget they had, they threw everything on these new fucking computer graphics, and nothing looks practical. Even the backgrounds, the sets don't even look practical.
I am really excited for Richard O'Brien though, because he was in it. The Crystal Maze guy, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, this really got me watching this. There are so many actors in the trailer that I was thinking, like, what the fuck? Why didn't I know they were in this? And I noticed as well in the trailer they didn't mention any of the actors' names or
Nah.
actors'
They're all
names.
too ashamed to.
And you've got big names.
I'll be in
you
it,
haven't
but don't put
listed
my
a
name on it.
single one.
We've got a cast list with just a big question
Well,
mark
yeah,
on a piece of A4
we've
paper.
got Richard O'Brien, obviously from Crystal Maze fame and from Rocky Horror fame. We've got
Tom
Jeremy
Baker,
Irons,
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who's fucking popped up in his TARDIS, yeah, to sort some dragons out. We've got Marlon Wayans, just in case you weren't sure that this was an early 2000s film. We've got Marlon fucking Wayans from the Scary Movie franchise. It's a weird one. Thora Birch is in this, who I think was quite popular in a lot of teen rom comedies back in the day.
Wasn't she in American Beauty with
That's
Kevin
the one,
Spacey
yeah.
the year before?
That's her. So again, kind of a weird one where the cast is pretty exceptional and it just looks atrocious, and I can't wait.
No, I'm looking forward to this.
What?
I
Right.
can't wait for
I think
Richard
I'll stay
O'Brien.
awake.
So I think we're all about ready to get on and watch this bad boy. What are we all hoping to get from this experience? I'm hoping to get a reinvigorated love for fantasy films. I think it's going to happen.
Oh, personally, a +2 in intelligence would be nice, but I feel like if I incorporate any part of the film into my life, I'm just going to get a big old fucking charisma debuff.
Looking at the trailer, I think my initial reaction is Jeremy Irons is going to carry this film.
Yeah.
Because his acting just looks so fucking extra in the trailer.
Yeah.
And if that's how he's acting for the entire film, I am on board. I think it looks good.
As always, I am just excited.
Here for the ride.
Hannah's just happy to be here.
I am.
It's Christina Ricci in the first one, right?
Oh,
From-
Christina reaching the first one playing Cat.
Yeah.
That's just the Casper movie.
I'm guessing this is where we're going to come in on it because we've just come back from watching Dungeons.
Dun, dun.
I knew that was going to
Dungeons and Dragons.
Should've
And I
known that
was
would
saying the
happen.
effects team must have worked on Casper and Wendy because the
Yeah.
spells looked exactly the same, where it's just some sparkly lights coming out of a finger.
It's some Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like 90s sitcom
Sprinkle a bit of
level
glitter.
CGI. But yeah, we've just come back from D&D. We've got thoughts. I think we all kind of enjoyed this one. Well, to different degreeing levels.
I was in and out.
Yeah, I would say I liked every single scene. There were like moments where the main cast are kind of dull. But every scene with Jeremy Irons is fucking exceptional. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Let's do a quick roundup of what we thought. Did we enjoy it? I think it's a pretty entertaining bad movie. Yeah, I'm with it.
There were bits where I checked out. I was in and out. It had me a lot of the time. Jeremy Irons and Damodar did it for me. I was entertained when they were on
Jeremy
the
Irons and Damodar. So you went with the actor and then a different character. You couldn't do two
Fine.
actors or two characters.
Protheon and Bruce Payne were
No, that's the wrong
really...
fucking thing.
Well, I've said them both now, so can't complain.
Swear to God.
They were both really entertaining, and the side characters in this were really doing it for me. But I think when the main plot was doing its exposition thing, I kept just zoning out for a while.
There were a few like duller moments, but I think overall I had a fun time. Jack
Yeah,
and
it was
Hannah?
like 10 minutes, like 2 lots of 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
I had a great time. I think it was really entertaining.
You
I laughed.
clapped like a dad like 4 times.
I laughed a lot. It was just like the really bad bits. I think like the bit where it's really dramatic because he steps on the screw and he fucking misses. And
There's
he-
some like soup.
Soup!
There's
Careful. It's soup.
Brian. There's some spectacular continuity errors throughout this thing, but that one in particular, yeah. There's a moment where the bad guy's like trying to get the scroll off this girl who's crawling towards it, and it's maybe this super menacing, like he's gonna step on the scroll like right next to her hand, and he just misses entirely. She looks up and she's like, "Shit."
But let's use that take. Yeah,
Let's
let's
use
not
that.
redo it.
Let's not
Thanks,
redo
Jack.
it. It was one of those things where it's like, yeah, we only have a certain number of days to fucking film this thing. I don't give a shit. Looks
But
fine.
overall, highly entertaining.
Yeah.
As a D&D player, there were some frustrations, which we'll get onto. In a
Yeah, there's a few like
But,
inconsistencies,
as-
right?
Just laugh at it. Don't take it too seriously. Overall, good film. Yeah, of course, there were dull bits, but every time Jeremy Irons was on stage, Jeremy Irons. That's the
Jeremy
chemist.
Irons.
That's the chemist in me. Jeremy Irons and Bruce Payne and a lot of the other side casts were on. It was superb. I agree. The main 3 were dull as dishwater,
Yeah,
but it makes up for it with the supporting cast.
I wish it was more of them, if I'm being honest. But Hannah, what we thinking?
No, the supporting cast made it for me. It was brilliant.
I think that's a consensus we all have is we enjoyed the kind of the supporting cast, the terrible CGI, the fantastic fantasy elements that they borrow almost like lift from fucking Lord of the Rings. Although you were saying this was prior to Lord of the Rings,
Yeah,
right?
it's early.
Yeah.
So like the
I
score
mean,
that they
the
had.
Lord of the Rings was written quite a while
True.
before this film.
Yeah,
If you're gonna
true.
be Fussy, you know.
Many years prior. Do you want to give us a quick overview of what's actually going on here? There were a few times where I think me, you, and Ryan, Hannah, we were a little bit like scratching our heads, like what the fuck is going on? But Jack, you seem to follow it anyway.
Right, so it was set in the Kingdom of Izmir, where wizards use their magic to rule the land. The Empress has a staff which can summon an army of gold dragons, just as you do.
Just as you do.
And she wanted to use it to help promote equality.
Yeah, I think so.
And the ruling council were like, no, that's a shite idea. Give
Yeah.
us a staff. So she sent out some adventurers to get the red dragon staff, which is apparently better than the gold dragon staff.
Red beats gold, Jack.
You'd think gold.
You think gold would be red, right? But
yeah,
no.
you'd think so, but apparently not in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, they go out on a quest to get the red staff. The evil guy, what was his name again? Protheon.
Protheon, yeah.
He wants the red staff too. Bit of back and forth there with a bit of like Phantom Menace-esque I Love the Senate politics.
There's a lot of that. Yeah.
But yeah, our adventurers get the red staff. There's a bit of a scrap with the red and gold dragons at the end, and everyone except what was his name? Snails lives happily ever after.
Snails might
You
have
never
lived.
know. He's
Oh,
now
no, sorry,
imbued
yeah.
in a red stone.
We haven't seen
He's
Dungeons
back.
and Dragons 2 or 3. There could be the Adventures of Snail afterwards. I think I'm glad you picked up on that Star Wars point because I got a lot of those vibes, especially the prequels with the whole like Senate stuff. That it felt like it was
Yeah, and the young queen ruler
Yeah.
who was like
Padme kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
Big
swear,
Padme.
in that audience, I saw Count Dooku.
He
He was there.
Yeah.
I saw his beard. He was one of the big guys, and he was there. I swear.
I don't think Christopher Lee was quoted in the cast list. But,
You'd be wrong.
It's kind of it detracts from it a little bit. Like I think those scenes they elevate because they're mostly the scenes with Jeremy Irons in, and any scene he's in, he just brings the fucking cheese.
he's so extra, isn't he?
Yeah, it's
perfect.
brilliant.
He's like just. Fucking
It's
go with
immediate
it.
as well.
Yeah.
It's like the first scene is this sweeping shot of these fucking awful CGI towers, which they go back to like 4 times, and I got fucking motion sick the entire time. But like the first proper scene with any of the cast is Jeremy Irons in his massive fucking cloak with his fucking gloves and his fucking blue-lipped henchman, and it's the campest fucking thing you'll ever see.
All the nonsense spell words that make no sense.
Yeah, he's just chanting random shit, and it's just it's perfect.
I love the fact that every time he's being a big body, he's dressed in black, and then when he has to go to the Senate and pretend to be a nice guy, he's dressed in white as well.
I'll put
Like
it by,
so. Is he pretending to be a
Golden
good guy? Now?
robes flowing.
Yeah, it's
but
like-
they wouldn't
I
melt
feel like
in
there's
little angel's
subtext there
mouth.
that we're
it's
not
like
picking
baby's
up on.
first media class. It's like, yeah, it's the first fucking kids out of fucking 6th form media trying to do like color coding and shit like that. It's pretty abysmal.
I think all the adults got it though for the most part. They knew what movie they were in. They really leaned into the stereotypes.
Irons
that they were
does
playing.
anyway. At least Irons. And what was the henchman called again? The actor called it something Payne.
Bruce
Max
Payne.
Payne. Bruce.
What a name, Bruce.
Yeah,
Payne.
fucking Bruce Payne. Them two get the assignment, and again, you kind of see that they probably saw this as a paycheck or just a bit have like a moment to have a bit of fun, which I kind of appreciate. I think anytime you watch, that's why their scenes spark more. I think like you can tell they're enjoying themselves. Where I almost wonder the scenes that don't work, which I think I know which ones don't work for me. It's mostly any scene with as you were saying, Jack, the core three. Marlon Wayans especially, it's this really early noughties form of humor that just doesn't really resonate, I think, anymore.
Again, Phantom Menace quotes. He's a very Jar Jar
sidekick.
isn't he?
Yeah.
Whereas it tries to be funny, it's not funny, but when
Yeah.
it's trying to be serious, it's really fucking funny.
They do these tender moments where the relationship
His last
between
name's Freeborn.
Ridley Freeborn, is that it? Yeah, just generic hero name. Insert
adult man.
yeah. They do these tender moments where they try and develop their relationship, but they can't have those tender moments without punctuating it with a joke, and it's like,
It's never a
let me
good
have it.
joke
Let me have it.
either.
Like, let me
It's
have
a
some
joke
development.
You have in every single movie. You
think-
never get that development.
I think we can all agree on the best elements being the scenes with Richard O'Brien as well, who is always fantastic. They kind of stopped the film entirely to have basically an episode of The Crystal Maze happen
Which
within
was
it.
wicked.
It was the best scene. There was actually moments in that where I was excited and a bit tense.
On that, the bones that were in the maze were real bones. This was in the Czech Republic, and they are bones of people that were in the
Was
graveyard.
it a real maze as well?
That had to be moved. Oh yeah. So it's set
They
off.
didn't tell Chris.
The spiritual ground's really big in the maze.
They
It's
didn't
part
tell
of the
Richard
culture.
O'Brien that it wasn't an episode of Crystal Maze. He just thought it was a really lavish episode of it. But yeah, that doesn't surprise me too much. That
That
bone
bit where
thing.
he slaps, what was her name?
Oh, he slaps her ass.
Yeah, he slaps her on the backside, and you can just see he's just sewn on into it.
Yeah, it's like the
He's
least
just like-
convincing
Is he
masculine.
like grit his teeth as he does it?
Why would anyone want like Richard O'Brien to do hyper masculinity, like fucking
I
misogyny?
wouldn't have
It's-
called that performance hyper
Well,
masculine.
no, but you know what I
Even though he
mean.
had a slap of girls, but it was the campiest performance.
I
Excellent.
love Richard O'Brien. He's fucking excellent.
Just a
Everything he's in.
shame him and Damodar weren't on the screen together at the same time.
They had like one scene, but they weren't like in close proximity, I guess. But they were in that one scene where they raided the Crystal Maze afterwards for the map.
I love how we don't actually know the name of the place, and we'll just keep
The
referring
Crystal
to it
Maze.
as the Crystal Maze.
Crystal Maze.
Who knows? Who fucking knows? But yeah, it does seem like Marlon Wayans especially feels like he's in White Chicks 2 rather than a D&D. It's so off-putting.
It's Chris
and
Tucker
so,
Fifth Element,
yeah,
isn't it?
it is. It's
just
so
that
out of place.
Sort of, again, the black side character with like all of the kind of stereotypical just bad humor and
He's
it just-
screaming every 5 minutes. Like
I don't know. It probably wasn't funny at the time, but it's definitely not
No.
aged well in 20 years.
Oh, it's like bordering on offensive. Like I feel like a lot of people watching it, I would call it. It's probably an offensive stereotype.
You cheered when he died. You cried when there was the indication that he might come
So
back to
there's like
life.
halfway through the film, he sacrifices himself in this like epic like hero moment. Like give me a moment to do what's right. And like yeah, they do this thing at the end where they like tease him coming back. And I was like, they better not fucking do it. The only way I want to see him be brought back by a fucking necromancer is so I can watch him die again. That's the only fucking thing I want to see out of it.
We'll have to watch the rest of the films. to
D&D
find
2.
out.
I think you're ready to watch the rest of the films. I think you're actually invested in this franchise now.
I wouldn't go that far, but it was
Better than Lord of the Rings,
It was
yeah.
a pleasant surprise, I think.
It was entertaining. It was.
Yeah.
It was entertaining from beginning to end. I don't really have too many bad things to say about it. There was like moments of lag, yeah, I guess, but it happens in every film. What are some of our favorite moments?
I love the bit where he just shouts, "Give me the rod!" It just
The last scene,
Give
like
me
that's
the rod.
you're right. It's like during this big epic battle that I seem to think comes out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, it was just like, okay, we're fighting now. There didn't seem to
Yeah.
be much preamble to it. It was
Like our
just-
heroes are off doing something else. They're finding the rod, and then we cut to mid fucking CGI dragon battle taking over the city. End of Game of Thrones level shit. Like
But PS1 Hagrid.
yeah, I
sort
think
of graphics.
we were too generous when we said PS2 graphics because this is like PS1 level, if that. Like, it's not good. It's fucking awful, man.
What was interesting as like D&D nerds, and you guys probably picked up on this as well, was sometimes they try to like lean into the sort of rules of the game with like every time one of the wizards cast a spell, they had to use like a material thing, didn't they?
Yeah.
She had to rummage into a
They
bag
do
and grab
try and
something.
stick to some of the rules.
But then Protheon just kept blasting off thunderbolts.
He's clearly a much higher level than
Well, it was actually
Tucker.
this was what my favourite scene was going to be. Protheon's going around and he's blasting anyone that comes close and freeze them, throw them to the side, freeze them, throw them to the side. The hero comes in, oh fuck, he's run out of spell slots.
Literally,
he's
yes.
absolutely defenseless.
Well, that's the point where he just starts slapping him with his rod. Like, he uses this fucking magical staff to bitch slap the guy. Like,
Oh,
like,
then throws the rod away.
1d4 plus your strength.
yeah,
throws it
he's
over course
melee
now,
attacking right there. Like, it's horrendously bad, but it's entertaining as fuck.
With the D&D sort of world building things, I think one thing that really boiled my piss, excuse my...
No, I like it.
To put it in a...
Boil that piss, Jack.
Couldn't
Boil
think of a better
away.
way to put it. Was putting... Like, they put beholders in because it's Dungeons and Dragons and they're an important part of it.
Yeah.
But they're meant to be like this really, really intelligent creature which are notoriously hard to sneak up on because they've got like dozens of eyes. He throws a rock in one direction, it runs the other way, and they sprint past it. So they're dumb and unperceptive. So it's like, why bother putting them in the film if you're gonna just completely ignore what
There
the
wasn't
point of
much-
the beholders
He didn't
are?
even bother to look around.
Yeah,
it
and
just
it was-
turned and ran
Also,
and kept running.
They were just keeping guard like some sort of. You could have used anything for that. You could have used.
a guard dog. You could have literally used a guard dog for that entire scene. It was completely irrelevant to the rest of the plot. We never saw it again. It didn't fucking come back, did it? It was
No, it was
just
like
there.
30 seconds of we need to put this in the film because it's Dungeons and Dragons.
I think that was. I mean, the guy, he's clearly a fan. So if you're kind of saying, I mean, I didn't know much about that creature, but if you're saying it's like such a betrayal to that creature as far as it's what it would be like, I wonder why he even bothered putting it in. I mean, I picked up on the props. I think right through the entire thing, Hannah was furious about the props. Like, it seemed to be her one sticking point. But you're right, it doesn't really rise above like sci-fi channel, made for TV, like Xena Warrior Princess level aesthetics. Like, it never looks good. It never looks like it's a $45 million budget
It's like
film.
they walked into a bargain buy and just picked up everything on the shelves and shoved it into.
Because like my favorite scene was like from that is the Halloween skeleton scene where the hero goes to get one of the quest items from this fucking skeleton. Yeah, it looks like fucking like Clash of the Titans level, like fucking skeleton bargain buy fucking bones and shit.
I think the rod as well, the red dragon rod thing. It looked like something that you'd like a kid would get bubble bath in for Christmas, like one of those weird toys that's got bubble bath in it. That's the only way I can describe how it looked. It was fucking ridiculous.
It was clearly a film that didn't spend its budget too wisely. I don't know why. I think maybe most of the budget went on Jeremy Irons' paycheck, because this was like post Lion King Jeremy Irons. Like, he was still riding that pretty well, I think.
You said he reminded you of Scar a lot
All the time,
as well.
all the time.
Yeah,
Like
he's
that,
got that very sort of tropey villain with the deep voice and the evil cackle sort of vibe going with Scar, doesn't he?
I do feel like I don't know who, apart from us idiots who watch these films for fun, I can't see an audience for it outside of Best Worst. Like, I don't see anyone actually sitting down and enjoying this legitimately and thinking it's good, because it's like the humor is too juvenile for adults, but there's also some really fucking dark scenes. Like, there's a scene where the female heroine gets her mind basically like it's assaulted basically by these weird worm
Just
things,
sucked out of her ears.
and it's fucking horrifying, and it's like genuinely quite disturbing to watch. And like any kid watching this is gonna be terrified because it's just fucking awful. It does definitely fit quite nicely into the best worst category, I think. I don't know if it's ever going to be one of my favorite best worst films, but it's definitely an entertaining romp, and I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, I don't think we'll watch it again, but while we did, I was having a good time, and that's kind of the point of these, isn't it?
I had a lot of fun personally.
Yes. And do you even have a favourite scene?
Oh yeah, didn't do
My
yours.
favourite
Let's
scene
skip right
I think,
over it.
has got to be the time where they conjure the red dragons and it's just a swarm of bats coming at you from
It's like
the screen.
Birdemic level. You said Birdemic level fucking CGI, didn't you? I like the bit where they just flashed to her being on the back of a dragon, and we were just because that last battle is so chaotic. Like, it's hard to even realize what's happening. It's just colors and noise.
I think we do need to talk about the costumes, however.
Well, yeah,
like
it falls into the props, doesn't it?
ridiculousness That was what was the elf one called?
Oh, I don't remember a name.
Just the paper arm shieldings, and then the bodice that is basically just tits, belly button,
She
abs.
was the Empress's seeker. She was an elf, and yeah,
They give her
that
this
costume was awful.
They give her the front part of an armored breastplate, basically, with fully endowed tits
Nipples on
Madonna
armor.
style.
Nipples, like, yeah, Batman and Robin style, nipples. But nothing else. Like, she hasn't got any armor on her back. She's got, like, it's like, seems to be tied to her with fucking paper. It's
held up by positive vibes. Isn't it?
positive vibes. It lacks very basic filmmaking knowledge. You can tell that this was his first film. And you can also tell that he wasn't really all in it, I don't think. Like, his heart definitely wasn't there.
I pity him a bit because it's clearly a passion project. He was trying to get it off the ground for
Yeah.
like 10 years. And then he's just been thrown in, no, you do it. Like, it's just, he knew he couldn't really direct. That's why he wanted to get someone else in. And he was bullied into directing it himself by the pressures from up above. And you've got to kind of sympathize with that, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like you can tell, right? So you can tell it's like his first movie, but everything is generic. Every character is generic. The storyline is generic. Even the beginning, where Marlon Wayans is talking to the hero, and he's just like, "Oh, you're just a farm boy. What could you possibly do? Q, let's go on an adventure. Raid the magic school and get into mischief." That ends up in the quest. The side character dies. The hero becomes the hero. Everything turns out well in the end. He gets the girl. Every character is generic. The females, the love interest is loud and opinionated and hard to manage.
And falls in love with them out of nowhere.
Falls in love with them out in
2 days.
Yeah.
2 days.
They don't even like each other. They fucking hate each other, and then immediately.
Scroll, fell in love mysteriously, and then wandered back onto this plane.
Yeah, we had no indication of that scene. That just happened off screen. They popped back in later, and they'd had this whole thing happen where they discussed the plan, what they were going to do. But the other female character, the Empress's Seeker, the elf, was just as bland. She had no personality. She was another stereotype of the career woman that's completely focused, doesn't have time for emotions or anything like that.
She's very
taken
cold.
seriously. And anyone who wasn't the main protagonist was a complete stereotype.
Even he was a
him,
stereotype,
he was
yeah.
a complete stereotype, yeah. The rest of them were not so flattering stereotypes.
That's what I felt like every time a character opened their mouth, they just screamed what race they were or what gender they were at me.
Yeah.
Like, it was, you are a dwarf, you are an elf, so you must be called, you are a dwarf, so
there
you
was
must
so
be
many
stupid.
racist tropes.
There was a lot.
Damn elf.
There was bloody mages,
And I
bloody
get-
dwarves, bloody elves.
And the thing is, I get that race politics does come up in games of Dungeons and Dragons. It is a kind of a quintessential element of the actual game. But in a film so vapid and in a film so devoid of any real, like, ingenuity, it comes off as really fucking pointless to try and insert race politics
Well, they
and
just
gender
sort of
politics.
Group all other races as commoners against mages. So they don't go into, particularly you get mentioned that there's a dwarf, there's an elf, there's
Every
mages
single
and
there's a
race.
thief,
Yeah.
but everybody is in that sort of commoner line. You know, there's no mention of.
And it doesn't really wrap it up either. I don't think there's any resolve to those
No,
questions.
they don't even,
Oh,
not
no.
only is there no resolve, there is no beginning to those questions.
Yeah.
You're overstating this.
I really
completely.
am. I'm giving him
So
more credit than should.
People are walking around and it's literally just saying, "Oh, the bloody elf," and they have no reason for it. Just like, "Yeah, the damn elves." Like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
But
he's a dwarf. Why are you talking to him?" Like, right? Why? What's wrong with that? Ask a question. Maybe talk to the mage. Hangs out with a commoner for 2 days. All of a sudden, she's like,
I get it.
"Commoners
Yeah.
aren't as bad as I thought they
She
were."
gets it. She understands.
But the Empress at the end says it's sorted now, so you know. That's
Because
fast.
We just burnt the city down.
because we live in
Like,
a
it's all right. We're all equal now.
Everyone lives in Exposition City, where the plot is explained to you. Characters discuss openly every single aspect of their lives and what they're doing and what the entire society around them. You don't fucking walk around and talk about this shit in a normal world. Like, this is not. There's nothing. I feel bad saying there's
Natural.
nothing realistic about a Dungeons and Dragons movie. But I just feel like that's probably not the best thing to
I
say.
feel like it just totally skipped over two scenes that just weren't shown as well that were really felt quite essential. Like they just
Yeah.
vanished into a map and then came back out and like, oh, we know what to do now. We need to go to here, get the thing. Then we need to go take it over there and get the thing.
Oh, and then the dream.
And then he was like, oh, I had a dream about this. And you're like, okay, do you not think you
In
should...
the Flintstones.
Do you want to tell us about
cave.
it? Or?
It's, yeah, do you not want to show us rather than tell us these things?
Yeah.
Because that makes for better cinema. But,
It's weird.
you know.
It's weird. I think props to the actors who clearly knew what they were doing, or were just here for a paycheck and were camping it the fuck up. That
Oh, have we talked about Tom Baker yet?
we haven't. No, he's in that dream scene. He kind of comes in as like a mystic mage kind of guy.
Yeah, like a healer type who just
yeah.
delivers like a big monologue and then is never seen again.
I don't think he blinked once throughout the entire monologue. He was stared straight directly into the camera's eyes, didn't move once, and just said his lines. But I,
think-
mean, his voice compensates.
I was about to say,
completely.
it's like, yeah, his delivery overcompensates for everything else in
Yeah.
the
Oh,
scene. I think.
absolutely.
In the Doctor Who style healing.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was
Oh, no,
regeneration
yeah.
colours, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was just regenerating and just sharing some of his essence.
Confirmed.
Standard Doctor Who.
Confirmed the Doctor Who universe is a real thing inside of the D&D universe. It's confirmed that the D&D.
My next character is a Time Lord.
There we go. Done.
No, I'm not balancing.
That's
happening.
That's the thing. It's an enjoyable time waster. It's probably nothing we'll ever watch again. It's nothing you'll watch unless you're a fan of Best Worst and unless you understand what you're getting yourself into. I think. Again, as with most of these films, grab a few beers and just get your mates around. Well, if you ever can, again, who knows? And just enjoy it. Yeah. That's not the end of the episode, guys. You're allowed to say shit as well.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm sort of looking forward to the 2022 version.
I want to see if they redeem themselves.
I kind of want to see it, yeah.
Yeah, I want to see because again, with him being involved, I wonder how much he's learned from this experience. Because again,
So he's producing it, not directing.
he's producing it, yeah. So I wonder how involved he's going to be. Whether or not producing just means he's giving them money to help, or whether he's going to be there as a kind of.
But I mean, you'd imagine they'd still take him on as a D&D expert to ask questions.
You'd hope so.
Check scenes and stuff.
I mean, they'll have him there to tell them what not to do.
It's a funny one though, because Dungeons and Dragons is just a platform to create stories with, isn't it?
It's hard to read.
Where it feels like, the Lord of the Rings has a story, has a sequence of events. Dungeons and Dragons is kind of whatever you want it to be, isn't it? And I think labeling it as a commercial product to make a film it feels
pointless.
Odd. Just make a fantasy film. Just make a, why does it? I don't understand really what Dungeons and Dragons has to do with it, and then that forces them to shoehorn in things like the Beholders just to make use of the label.
It's not the first time, and it's not the last time Hollywood will make a film out of a completely unfilmable property. Like, let's think about like battleships and shit like that. Like
Rock'em Sock'em Robots, aka Pacific Rim.
It's gonna happen consistently. I just think they were clearly underprepared with what to expect from this experience. I do think that it was clearly such a misguided project as a whole. No, but I think I'm ready to kind of wrap up with what I feel about this thing. It was an enjoyable romp. It was an enjoyable time waster. Props to Bruce Payne. Props to Jeremy Irons. The real MVPs of this film. I would have watched them for another hour and a half.
And props, to be fair, to Courtney Solomon for just giving it a good go. Giving it a try. He was pushed into it. Fair play, mate.
Yeah.
It's not the best, but we enjoyed watching it.
I would say definitely worthy of Best Worst. Probably not one thing I'm going to revisit too soon. But yeah, definitely Best Worst material.
I had so many issues with this movie. Everything was generic from beginning to end. All of the characters were generic. All of the set designs were generic. They didn't lean into the lore where they should have. All the plot points were completely generic. They wasted all of the budget on the CGI, which looks terrible. The practical effects weren't bad at all. And there weren't many of them.
At all.
The Crystal Maze scene was probably the best looking scene in the entire thing.
Yeah,
it was quite exciting, that scene. Like, I had quite a lot of fun with the traps
Pretty
and
fucking
shit.
exciting. Everything was real. The fire was real. It looked fucking cool.
Yeah.
But bar that, there wasn't a lot of practical effects going on, and that ruined it a bit. The straight in with the exposition was a downer for me, and in general, I'm finding it hard to come up with many things that redeemed it, other than some of the really over the top fucking hilarious acting. Other than that, though, I'm giving it it's a bust for me. Good try. You didn't want to do it. I get it. You just picked up things you'd seen from every movie ever. Learn to write a female character, though, at least, please. They
The stereotypes were probably the worst aspect of it, yeah. But, it's a bad movie. What can you expect? Hannah Curran.
I enjoyed it. I think it lost the freedom and the ingenuity that D&D has. Like, it seemed to focus on the fact that there's lots of different races, and these races are against each other, and there's dragons, and there's dungeons, and there's...
Yeah, it got like the ingredients, but not the essence.
Yeah, like there was no. You can have a bit of creativity with D&D, and it's how you're given a bunch of things you put in these situations, and it's how you sort of handle yourself and get your way out of them. Where it just felt a bit. Well, it was just a general fantasy film with a few D&D references pulled in. But I did enjoy it. I found it
that was a big
hilariously bad.
Hannah's like telling me everything she hates about it, but I loved it. It's great.
It's sort of what made it enjoyable for me. The fact that you could just sit back and you watched it as a train wreck, not as a genuine film, and for that it ticked every box.
Yeah, I don't
think it did tick every box.
I think are we not finished? Is this going to be movie fights?
I think the CGI was bad, and I don't think that's a particular ticky box. That just made it hard to watch and nauseating. The acting was somewhat entertaining, which gives it some entertainment value, but then the story completely brings it down. Everything else completely brings it down, other than the acting. What else did you like about this?
But as far as Best Worst goes...
Was that, but I quite enjoyed the terrible terrible, terrible CGI.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as best worst goes, I don't think you
It's
can ask for a
endearing.
hell of a lot more.
I really like the fact that the golden dragon just stabbed itself on a treetop and then treetop.
Oh my god, no, that was fucking great. It gets shot with like a crossbow
And then
bolt.
she's just like, war over.
Yeah,
Come
like
back.
the dragon falls out of the sky, lands on the chapel spire, gets impaled through, and she's like, the Empress, what have I done?
I think when the film
she dresses like a fucking mortician in the first scene in the black dress, but
She
she
does.
speaks like a delicate little butterfly.
she does. I think you're right. Like any scene that focuses on plot really loses its way a little bit and starts to get kind of convoluted and boring and dull. But any scene that focuses on magical fucking spells and dragons and colors and random sounds that make no fucking sense and just chaos. I'm with Hannah and Jack.
Yeah,
I
Hannah,
think
you
this was
give me
fun as
last
fuck.
minute change of mind when there's no exposition. Fucking
Yeah.
best worst. when they are talking though, fuck that.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end as any, guys. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please do check us out on our social medias. Just search the Bad Taste Buds. Should that be Bad Taste Buds? Hold on, let me do that again. I don't even know the name of their own fucking socials.
Bad taste buds.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please do give us a follow and a like on all of our social media pages. Just search Bad Taste Buds, and also check us out at www.badtastebuds.org.
Calm.
Do they need the www bit?
www.
http://
Dot.
What's it called? It's a colon, isn't it? That's what it's called.
To go on a website, you need an internet browser such as Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Firefox.
Hook up
You
your
didn't explain about Wi-Fi.
hook up your modem to the landline. No, fucking yeah. Do check us out on our socials and on our website, guys. And do remember, if you're listening on Apple Pods, to subscribe. Thank you. Bye.